Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So it looks like old fish eyes Frank Warren is back on road because this is daylight robbery. Tyson Fury versus Dereck Chisora 3. Bear in mind, the first two fights weren't on pay-per-view when certainly Chisora was a much better fighter. The trilogy fight, of course, is on pay-per-view, which many have maligned here in the UK, and rightly so. It's a tune-up fight at the end of the day. But yeah, not only is this fight on pay-per-view, the price has actually increased to £26.95. Now, from my recollection, that is the most expensive UK pay-per-view that I can recall. I'm trying to think because when Joshua fought Andy Ruiz for second time, that fight got bumped up to $24.95, which has become, I would say, the new standard pay-per-view price for big fights in the UK. And there was a big uproar then. But this fight being $26.95, a £2 increase on the Dillian Whyte fight. You know, the Dillian Whyte fight, regardless of how poor Dillian Whyte was, that fight garnered much more attention than this Chisora trilogy fight, a guy who Fury's beaten twice, once handily, and in the other fight he dominated him. He actually made him quit. So I would love to hear an explanation from BT, from Frank Warren, on the justification of raising this pay-per-view price. I mean, Tyson Fury himself admits that the biggest fights of his career, and in his words, the kind of glamour fights in his career, were the Deontay Wilder fights. Well, how the fuck is Dereck Chisora a more expensive pay-per-view? Bear in mind also, Christmas is around the corner. We are currently undergoing a cost of living crisis here in the UK. So yeah, I mean, this really is poor PR from BT, for BT in my opinion. It's poor PR for Frank Warren. And again, I would like a justification on why this pay-per-view price has been raised, you know? And I know that I'm going to get some low IQ Tyson Fury fanboys saying, well, it's only £2, what are you moaning about? If you give these guys an inch, they will take a mile. That was the case with the Anthony Joshua Andy Ruiz pay-per-view, the rematch. When that fight happened, when it was made, Eddie Hearn was quizzed on that pay-per-view price, and he basically said it would be more or less a one-off, only for really, really big fights. However, skip forwards, that price point now seems to be the norm. So if you give these guys an inch, they take a mile. These guys are bloodsuckers. And, you know, BT, Frank Warren, it's a disgrace that this fight is on pay-per-view in the first place. But to raise the price of this pay-per-view, I mean, damn. I know Tyson Fury has some dedicated fans, but this pay-per-view is going to flop hard. I mean, there's a reason they never released the Dillian Whyte pay-per-view numbers, let's be honest here. I don't believe that fight did as well as, you know, the people around Fury were expecting, hence why the numbers weren't released. If they were great numbers, 1 million plus, you know, you would have heard Frank Warren and the likes shout it from the rooftops, but you never did. I'm pretty certain that pay-per-view didn't do that well. And if that's the case, then this pay-per-view is going to do even worse. This time around, we are in a cost of living crisis. Christmas is around the corner. The pay-per-view price has been raised. And it's a worse fight. It's a fight that isn't garnering as much attention as the Dillian Whyte fight did. But yeah, to me, this is just taking the absolute piss. Hopefully people don't support this fight. They don't buy it. And hopefully this fight bombs at the box office because, you know, these promoters, and it's not just BT, it's not just Frank Warren, it's Eddie Hearn, it's Sky, etc, etc, DAZN. You know, these guys just take boxing fans for a ride. And I think it was Dana White who said this, and the more that I thought about this quote, the more I realised that it's true. People in boxing, they treat boxing like a going out of sale auction. Anything that is half decent goes on pay-per-view. I mean, look at Prograis versus Zepeda. Great fight, but it's not a pay-per-view. Any fight with big names, quote-unquote, goes on pay-per-view, even if it's a shit fight, like Fury versus Chisora. Boxing promoters are just squeezing every penny they can out of a sport without really necessarily looking out for the future of the sport, the longevity of the sport, and, taking the initiative to actually grow the sport. And the perfect example of that was during the lockdowns, where the UFC were putting on shows basically every week. Dana White did everything that he could to get shows on, and he did it. I mean, look at boxing. Look at the likes of Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn. These guys, they just cowered down and rode it out without putting on any shows. These guys, they are what they are, man. They are bloodsuckers. They are parasites. And yeah, this is just another example of it. Tyson Fury versus Dereck Chisora 3 on pay-per-view in 2022. Imagine you said that, right? In 2014, the last time Tyson Fury beat Dereck Chisora. By the way, that fight wasn't on pay-per-view. Imagine you said then, 8 years later, these two guys are going to fight a third time on pay-per-view. You would have been laughed at, because it is laughable. It is laughable. So, yeah, hopefully this fight flops. And again, I pay very little when it comes to boxing pay-per-views. I don't buy much, because ultimately, if I don't deem it worthy, I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to buy it. I know there's this narrative that if you don't support every boxing event, you're not a real boxing fan. Or if you stream boxing fights, you're not a real boxing fan. What a crock of shit. The only individuals in which I've heard say this actually have boxing platforms. And you have to ask yourself why they would come up with that narrative. Maybe these men are getting paid. Who knows? I certainly wouldn't be shocked. I mean, we see this on YouTube. Look all over the boxing scene on YouTube, and you'll see guys, wave their pom-poms, get the knee pads out, bend down, and, do what. That is what it is. That's the reality. And also, I'll be interested to see how these YouTube boxing reporters approach this. More than likely, we know what's going to happen. They'll ask one question. Frank Warren's going to give some BS answer. Then they'll roll over and have their bellies rubbed. They're not going to push it or anything like that. That's what's going to happen. And yeah, I'm looking at IFL Umar, he gets a lot of access to Frank Warren, so I'm expecting some grilling, some roasting, some char grill. But are we going to get it? No. I mean, I doubt the coals even get lit, That's a reality when it comes to these boxing reporters, carry a camera around and lick arse, essentially. That's it, That's the level we're dealing with here. And yeah, these guys are as culpable for the fall of the sport and the bullshit that is perpetrated by these promoters, fighters, managers, etc. as anybody else's. These guys honestly are terrible at their jobs. They wouldn't get a job in any other sport in regards to reporting or journalism. They wouldn't. They bring nothing to the table, The only thing was, the likes of Coogan got there first. Fair play for spotting an opening, but does that mean they're good at their job? No. I mean, when was the last time you heard the likes of Coogan Cassius or Umar ask an insightful question? I'll tell you, the answer is on the back of a postcard. Peace.